When Gardener's World came around to film my garden, yes I know, I'm not going to stop milking that anytime soon. The thing that Monty picked up on was that I was really trying to develop a sense of place. That really is one of the missions for my garden. You don't just want a collection of plants, you want a garden that really feels like somewhere, or at least means something really to you. And today we're on the west coast of Wales. We're actually here on holiday, but an impromptu garden visit led us to here, Dyffryn Fernant. This is a garden that's full of exotics. There's so many incredible tropical style and exotic looking plants, but I'm not just here for the plants. I'm actually here on a fleeting visit to show you a bit about the place I've created. In just over 25 years, Christina and her family have really created a beautiful place. And when you're here, you feel like you could be anywhere in the world. It really is a calming, exciting environment. So I want to show you a bit more about that. This is only a quick video and I couldn't do the place justice in just a couple of hours, but I hope it's a very nice intro. And if you're ever in this part of the world, you should definitely head over. It really is incredible. And as I film this video, we're in mid-May. So I can only imagine by late summer, this garden must be absolutely full of colour, of amazing structural exotics. So let's get started. Now I'll be honest, in a garden like this, in a place like this, there's hundreds of videos I could film. I could talk about the structure, the use of colour, the way they've created a garden here that simultaneously feels like it belongs here in this landscape, but also transport you to somewhere different. But instead, I don't have time to do that today. I've only really got a couple of hours before it's tea, and then we're taking the boys back to the beach for a quick run around there. So what I want to do in this video is to look at some of the plants that I grow at home. And I know in my videos, I talk lots about the practicalities, the how you grow certain plants, which way I put them together, the care that I give them throughout the year. But I think it's really interesting, personally, when I come to gardens like this, to see the plants I enjoy growing somewhere where they've had 20 plus years to really settle in. To see an ever-evolving environment like this, to see the plants at the best, and to see somewhere that feels more complete. Now, I know complete's never a word that you should apply to a garden, but here, they've been here 25 years. Nestled in amongst the hills, a mile away from the sea, it's a beautiful mild climate, and it lets them grow so many incredible exotic plants. So for me personally, the thing that I enjoy best is seeing these plants established in a place where they feel just at home. So that's what I want to show you today, starting with an incredible eucalyptus that's just in as you come through the gate. As you'll probably know then if you watch my videos, the fire pit area that I'm working on at the end of the garden, I've got a few eucalyptus trees there. And I know they're a tree with quite a divisive nature, but personally I think if you've got the space for them to really enjoy them, they're a tree that we can grow successfully here in the UK that has attributes, that has a character and an exotic nature like few others do. And this is what I want to show you here behind me. This eucalyptus was planted out around 25 years ago. I'll just go stand next to it to give you an idea of just how big it is. That makes so much difference, doesn't it? So here we've got a beautiful multi-trunk eucalyptus, and this was grown from seed and planted out in 1994, I believe. So it really is incredible. Even the smaller varieties, just really what structure they can bring to a garden. These are trees that can mature in a human lifespan, not trees that take centuries to become anything really significant. This is a beautiful tree indeed. And for me personally, it's not just that light canopy that lets the light dapples sort of filter through it. It's actually this bark that really attracts me to this tree. I just love the sort of camouflage effect. If you're going to grow an exotic garden, then it makes sense to include trees that not only provide a bit of structure for wildlife, but also really add to that exotic nature. And for me, I don't think there's anything much better than a eucalyptus for really giving your garden that otherworldly exotic feel. So I really like that tree. And in my garden, you know, I grow a couple of different rhododendrons, and my favourite is Rhododendron Sina Grande. Now, I've got to admit, at the time of filming, I don't know exactly which variety of rhododendron this is, but I'm sure you can agree, those huge leaves, the overall quite sparse habit, it definitely lends that exotic jungle feel to this part of the garden. And here, I think it's incredible when you just see the plants it's combined with. You've got ivy behind it, foxgloves in front, but to me, just having one critical plant with big leaves, with real attitude and presence, it really brings a whole exotic nature to that entire part of the garden. You might have heard me prattle on in other videos about how grasses can really transform a space. And in my garden, I have dotted miscanthus throughout the garden to really give it some summer volume. Grasses like these, they don't look anything in early spring once they're chopped back, but the growth is rapid. So this area in mid-May, it doesn't look too much, but as things progress on, as midsummer comes, these grasses will be getting taller and taller and taller. We've got Stipa gigantea behind me, some large miscanthus I think over here. In this garden, they don't just have one or two dotted around, there's whole blocks of these grasses. So this is an area that is really open. You've got the blue sky, the Welsh countryside over there, and personally, I think these grasses will really transform the place. So whilst you can't have blocks of this necessarily in your own garden, I think just having a few grasses dotted around the place, it can completely change the feel of your garden in summer. It can make it feel more enclosed. It can really give it that jungle feel as everything wraps around you. And here, I really love some of the grasses I've chosen. I know I am building my fire pit, but I'm as guilty as anyone as not actually taking time to stop or sit still and really enjoy the garden. Whereas here, it feels like the whole garden's been designed for people to enjoy it. To give places like this amazing secluded area under this old oak tree. Behind us, we've got the grasses there that look fantastic in the summer sun. I think really places like this are so important in the garden. And I know it's really easy to get carried away, especially us exotic or tropical plant type people, just with the plants themselves. Everyone goes mad, you put more plants in than you need to, especially at the start of summer. And before you know it, you've got a garden that's definitely more jungle than garden. So one thing that I really want to work on is creating that balance. Now, I know it's obviously easier when you've got more space like this, but even in a small garden, just creating those views for yourself, creating somewhere to enjoy it, this has been a good reminder of that. I can't think of anywhere better to sit on a beautiful summer evening than here today. It's just fantastic. Looking out, you've got the trees going up the hills in the background, the grass is behind me, and the gentle sort of countryside sounds in the distance. So this is really an incredible place. Heading through the meadow area then, we pass a large pond. I wish I could have a pond like this at home. It's almost a lake. And what I find it really does is it really makes the Gunnera look so much at home. There's Gunnera all around the garden here, and when you see them by water, they just look natural. But ahead, we're going to see a plant that's from the other side of the world, but in a place where, to me, again, it looks completely at home. So let's head round there now. Heading down into the trees then, where the sun is now producing a dappled light, you can see it's the perfect home for this tree fern. Just look how incredible that looks. And I think for me, what this really means is plants like this, yes, there can be specimen plants, but to me, tree ferns, they almost deserve a more sort of natural environment. Not the same just in a woodland, but in your garden, I think you really need to have the plants around them to make them feel at home. So obviously we can't all have huge trees like this hanging over our tree ferns. I'm lucky enough to have some trees that I borrow from the neighbour, but it's all about the plants that go around it at low level. It's about the ferns, it's about these beautiful green leaves here. A lot of them are perfectly natural native plants, but doesn't it make the tree fern just sort of so much more majestic, but it's not just by itself in the middle of a lawn, surrounded by all this greenery with a perfect filtered light just landing on the fronds. I think this looks incredible, and it's what I want mine to look like at some point in the future. And when I talk about using ferns to soften edges of hard landscaping, this is a great example. Here in the woodlands, as this boardwalk stretches off into the distance, you can see how the ferns gracefully lean over the edges. Everything feels just so much more natural. And I think ferns are a great choice, whether you're wanting to grow a woodland type garden with a few choice exotics, or you're going full on tropical. If you've got any kind of paths, any kind of rocks or stone in your garden, ferns are a great companion that just make the whole thing feel more like a natural environment. Here, they look fantastic. And as we head on out of the woodland, I almost don't want to speak, because the sound of that stream babbling away, that's all you need to know. But in front of us, we've got the Gunnera. And here in the garden, I think there's a mixture of Tinctoria and Manicata, but they both look incredibly prehistoric, with their huge leaves reaching up towards the sky and those inflorescences that just look incredibly alien. For me, this is one of the plants that really makes a place. And here you can see, mixed in with all kinds of native and natural planting, just having something like this, it really makes a focal point. These are plants that tell you that this is a garden, not just part of the countryside. And personally, I love them. Heading towards the courtyard, our friend the Gunnera pops up again. This is really a plant that ties the whole garden together. And I think with those huge leaves, they're really a great way of marrying the countryside beyond with the exotics we're about to see. You can probably see from this point here, the cannas in the foreground, bamboos in the background, and all kinds of Tetrapanax, irises, and a huge Echium pointing up through the garden. This is an incredible view and one we're going to explore now. And on the way, a lovely large hosta. I believe this will be Empress Wu, but here, unlike my garden, it's got the space and obviously zero slugs or snails to bother it, because this one looks fantastic. And you can sort of see, looking at this clump, how I can recommend them as an alternative to Gunnera if you've got a smaller garden. It's that same kind of massive leaves, that same kind of prehistoric bluey green sort of feel into the garden. I really like hostas, and for me, Empress Wu, some substance, two of the biggest, two of the best. So here you can see those monstrous Gunneras reaching up towards the sky. And I just love the look of the leaves, the feel of them, and how they really like they're from another planet. But as we head through, you'll see they've been mixed with other water-loving plants. All these Xanthodecia, arum lilies here, with the beautiful white flowers. Over there in pots, we've got some more sun-loving plants. They're Agave, americana, Variegata. They look fantastic. There you can see a bit of an ugly sight, but it will be gone very soon. And here, as we spin round, you can see just the mass of irises, grasses, primulas. There's all kinds of different plants. So I know my garden, it's really all about the exotics. I've really gone for that jungle kind of theme, but here they show how just a crucial few exotics can really give an area such an impressive aura. I think the planting here is fantastic, and there's so many great ideas if you've got quite a damp or shady garden. So a few take-home tips from this area. Firstly, I'd say if you've got a garden that's heavily based on greens, that instantly feels more tied together, more relaxing. And then when you do introduce colour, if you introduce it with a bit of restraint, like all these deep magenta primulas here, having that one colour, it really ties the garden together. It almost feels like this area was perfectly designed just for this moment of the year. And looking round, if you do want to grow plants that may be completely not suitable for your area, growing them in pots is a great way of giving them conditions that will definitely aid the growth. And looking past it, ferns. I know they're a plant I've talked about growing in my garden, and I planted a lot of hardy ground ferns fairly recently. But here you can see just the sizes that some of them can get to. So even the small filler plants have got the potential to be impressive specimens in their own right. You can see how here the Nephophia heads, they really give that tropical punch of colour. But around the corner, there's a plant you might recognise from my videos. This is Persicaria Red Dragon, and it gives you an idea of how big it can get. Yes, we're only in mid-May, but already that's quite a clump. So here, I imagine they get more sun, more water than the ones in my garden, but you can see how impressive looking they are. And as a plant you can divide so easily and buy incredibly cheaply, I think they definitely have impact. They're not going to be the star of a garden, but like here, they're a puzzle piece that really ties it together. And in an exotic garden, having that bright red foliage, it really sets off the other colours, especially when you've got flowers like Nephophia and cannas. It really looks fantastic. So we're now at the part of the garden that I know you'll enjoy. This is the part of the garden that led me to ask if I could come here and film this little video later today. It's a courtyard packed full of incredible exotics. Agave americana, this Variegata here, it really has presence, but it's some of the plants over there that I think you'll be really interested in. So if you're going to grow an exotic plant with real impact for a container, then you can't go far wrong with these agaves. I think they look incredible here in these urns, and behind them there's some other fantastic choices. Here, look at these Aeoniums. I don't think we've ever seen them as big as this. And just look how healthy they look. Here, branching out, they just really tower over you as you walk past. I think these really give that Mediterranean feel to the area. More Agaves, more Aeoniums, ferns. There is what used to be called Aloe stritula, and that's a very, very tough hardy aloe. But to me, it's a mixture of hardy plants, like down there, the euphorbia, with some slightly more tender aloes, agaves. You get those incredible blooms like that. Here, I imagine that's a poya, another Aeonium. There really are some beautiful specimens here, and you can tell they've really been looked after. But it's this combination of Mediterranean style planting, so many beautiful plants in pots. This is something that you could definitely do at home and really give your patio or any kind of small garden a real exotic Mediterranean theme. And heading through, you can't not notice the hum of bees, and this is what they're here for. This is an Echium. Now, you've probably seen them in my garden. I did have one blooming a few years ago at our old garden, but in mine, they're currently around that kind of size, so probably a year off really going for it. But if I step back, you can see that this is actually one monstrous plant. That bloom, it seriously is incredible. These are one of the plants, if anyone says an exotic garden doesn't have something for wildlife, just show them one of these. I don't think there's a single other plant that attracts the bees quite as well. And for me, this is a plant that's definitely worth the wait. Sometimes they can take a few years to bloom, but when they do, it's absolutely worth it. See all the bees there? Incredible to see. But heading through, you'll see all kinds of different ferns and flowers. Cardoons over there. Shout out here to my friend James Wilson and Hannah. They've got some incredible cardoons in their garden. I really think they've got an exotic vibe to them. But as we head through, you'll see another foliage plant that's certainly got that vibe in spades. These are Tetrapanax. Tetrapanax papyrifera rex. And you can probably see these are a bit further on than mine. They've got that real dinosaur claw shape to them. Now, there is a bit of uncertainty about the idea of a lot of Tetrapanax, and some people say that if they've got a sort of bronze look to them rather than silver on the new leaves, but those aren't rex. To me, I wouldn't claim to be an expert at IDing them, but what I would say is either plant is certainly an incredible eye-catching statement piece. And if you want the plant that really screams exotic, you can't get much better than a Tetrapanax. And here, looking out, you can see the cannas just starting their show. I've been told they're actually planting a lot out this weekend, and this area will come alive with foliage. Canna musifolia and Eomanii, those are cannas that are monstrous. Huge, great big things, 2 meters plus, and this is a space that you can really show them off. Up there with the hills, a view like this, you really need big plants to really create an eye-catching garden. And here they've certainly got it. And one thing that really caught my eye is this little arrangement here. These, if you look closely, are Echeveria. A lot of them are starting to flower. And then Opipogon nigrescens, I think it's pronounced, the black mondo grass around it. Not technically a grass, it's actually a lily. And that's a fantastic mix. The two colours that are really visually striking. And this is definitely something you could replicate on a smaller scale. Even if you've got a tiny patio or a courtyard garden or a balcony, anything like that, these are plants that for summer can really bring some exotic vibes. And is it just me, or is there something about exotics combined with old rustic buildings that really makes them look so much more incredible? I know personally in the garden, I've tried to stay away from that modern theme, and I've really gone for old natural stone, as much recycled material as I can. I just think the combination, it really is incredible. Here you can see a Phylostachys aurea bamboo, and as we head past that, past all kinds of ferns, you'll see, as I gently pass around here, we're heading to the fernery. There's marked out there. There you can see a woodwardia throwing out those red fronds. They're really striking fern. As we pass up here, this shows you what you could create if you've got a small shady garden. I just love the variety. You've got some slightly rarer ground ferns here, some really large ones, and then some smaller types that have been grown to their absolute best. But it's that combination that I really love about ferns. I know I keep mentioning it in every video, but to me, it's when you've got all kinds of different frond shapes, from the asplenium type solid fronds through to these delicate ones over here. That, I believe, is a Terrace umbrosa, the jungle break, like I grow at home. Just a combination of them all together, you could have a garden that's purely about ferns. And here, I think it looks incredible. And whilst it's not entirely my kind of vibe, I just love these azaleas here. On this Azalea Bank, the scent is just incredible. It really fills the air. And as you can probably see, or maybe even hear, they're covered with bees too. As we walked past this early today, on our first visit, the scent, it really hits you. But as you look closer, it's the colours that really draw you in. Really some beautiful planting. And again, it's the ferns that really begin it. epimedium there, the same sorts that I grow at home. Again, use like the ferns to really soften those hard edges. And it's incredible here how the use of some exotic plants, even plants like euphorbias here, they're just nestling amongst the natives. They really make this place feel like a special part of the world. So that's it for today's video. A quick walk around this incredible garden. A huge thank you to Christina and her amazing family for letting me take a couple of hours this evening to really show you some of the incredible plants here. I think this is a garden that's definitely got that real sense of place. And just walking around, you can really feel the love, the care and the attention that's been spent in it over the years. And in fact, now it's nearly 7 o'clock and they're all still hard at work in the garden. For me, that really tells it all. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you're ever in West Wales, it means you definitely head over and give this place a visit. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.